Buying a home in Crestwood is drastically different than buying a home in many other parts of the country. Starting with searching for your perfect home, to the home inspection process, how you can back out of a contract, and everything in between, we want to make sure you don't have any surprises along the way. As someone who specializes in helping people relocate to Crestwood from other parts of the country, a lot of this can be brand new information to you, and we want to be sure that you are informed. I'm Brian Kelleher, a local real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty here in Crestwood in Birmingham, Alabama. I've lived and worked in Crestwood for over 25 years, and I specialize in helping people just like yourself relocate right here to Crestwood. Okay, so let's dive into what the home buying process looks like when you're buying a home in Crestwood, and what you need to know and who you need to know in order to have a great experience. So you've been watching all of our videos and you've narrowed down your search to Crestwood. Well, we've gotten you connected with one of our great mortgage lenders. You know your budget, how much you'll need to have for your down payment, and what your monthly payment will look like. Now it's time to start looking at properties. It's the fun part. The process of viewing homes works much like it does in most other parts of the country. After a consultation about what you're looking for and answering any questions you have about the home buying process, we'll set you up with an online search and send you properties that match your wants and needs. Once you identify some properties that you think might be a good fit, we'll go ahead and we'll schedule a time to go ahead and view them in person. Remember, this is not the time for a thorough home inspection. This is when you decide if you're interested in a particular house, and then we can deep dive into like all the different inspections. Once you identify the house that you want to pursue, it's time for us to actually sit down and make an offer. There's several choices to be made at this point, such as the offer price, earnest money amount, the closing date, how you're financing the purchase, and what inspections you want to do. A few things may affect the price that we want to offer, and at the end of the day, the decision is yours. However, our team will do tons of research on what similar homes in Crestwood have sold for, what similar homes have not yet sold, how long this particular house has been on the market, and how much activity this house has seen since they started showings. This is also when we'll indicate whether you're paying cash or if the contract will be contingent on a mortgage and what type of mortgage that would be. So, once we agree on an offer price, we need to decide how much earnest money we'll offer. The earnest money is money that's held in an escrow account, generally the listing broker's escrow account, and gets applied to your down payment or closing costs at the closing. Generally, we recommend about 1% of the total purchase price as earnest money, and typically your offer is going to be viewed as more serious or earnest if you put down a larger earnest money amount, and if you're competing against other offers, higher earnest money is one of the things we should consider. If you end up canceling the contract due to a contingency we put in the contract states that you are due to get that earnest money back. If you break the contract for no good reason, or for a reason that's just not stipulated in the contract, it'll state that the seller is due to receive that earnest money. The important thing to keep in mind is no one gets that earnest money automatically, and in the case that the contract is canceled for any reason, both the buyer and the seller must agree in writing who is to receive that earnest money. So, the important thing to remember, whether the contract goes all the way through to closing, you got to follow all the timelines, all the dates, and all the contingencies in the contract. Closing date is another important item. So much of this will depend on whether you have a mortgage that needs time to be underwritten, and that usually means a minimum of 30 days or so, but it can also vary depending on the type of mortgage and how prepared you are to send all of the required documents that the lender needs to the mortgage company. Other considerations may be whether you have a lease that's ending on a certain date, or maybe you're relocating for work and need to be closed in time to start your job. It's also important to consider what's important to the seller in terms of a closing date, and we'll do our best to communicate with the other agent about that. Again, in the case that you're competing against another offer, giving the seller the closing date that they need can make the difference between getting the house or not getting the house. So, on to inspections. Inspections in Crestwood, or really in the state of Alabama, are where things tend to be the most different from other parts of the country. So for purposes of this video, I'm assuming that you want to do inspections, and frankly, I can't emphasize enough that you definitely do want to do inspections. So Alabama is a caveat emptor state, or more commonly known as a buyer beware state. Simply put, This means the seller has no obligation, with the exception of certain health and safety issues, to disclose anything about the house to a potential buyer. So it's important to have a home inspector that's knowledgeable and experienced, especially in a neighborhood like Crestwood. The homes in Crestwood are often approaching or over 100 years old, and they come with their own unique set of issues that need to be investigated. We'll dig deeper and a lot deeper into all the different types of inspections that might be possible on a different video. The standard contract we use most often has a default of 10 calendar days for us to complete the inspections, and that, like so many things in your offer, is negotiable. It's very important to read the details of this section, as this will also dictate what your options are following your inspections and how long you have to take action on those options. When you aren't sure, always ask your agent. Once we've completed all the inspections, if the inspectors have uncovered anything that you're not satisfied with, we can submit to the seller a list of issues that you want corrected at the seller's expense and prior to closing. We may also ask for additional time to do some further investigation if the inspector uncovers certain issues that are out of their wheelhouse and they recommend that we bring in an expert. One example of this may be if the inspector finds, say, cracks in the foundation and recommends that we bring in a foundation expert. If things go really bad during inspections, most contracts give you the option to just cancel the contract at that point. If we do submit a list of repairs to the seller, it's important to remember that the seller is not obligated to fix anything and that the list is negotiable. Once we get to a list that everyone agrees on, the seller will get to work on having those items completed, and we will get to work on preparing for closing. We'll schedule a time shortly before closing to have someone come out and check to be sure all the repairs have been done correctly and to make sure that there are proper receipts for any repairs that you have requested. One last thing that makes Crestwood and the state of Alabama stand out from other parts of the country is the actual closing day. Traditionally in Alabama, the buyer and the seller sit together at closing along with their real estate agents and an attorney who is neutral. They don't represent either party in the transaction and are there simply to make sure all the documents are completed correctly. While buyer and seller have the right to bring their own attorney to closing, it's pretty rare. Generally, everything is completed by the closing office. I guess it's kind of Southern hospitality, but this is the fun part. Usually this is where there's a lot of signing of documents and also a lot of buyer and seller just getting to know each other and getting some questions answered for the buyers. So that's the snapshot of the home buying process in Crestwood. If you're thinking of making a move to Crestwood, or if you have any questions at all about the home buying process, give me a call today. My contact information is in the comments and in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can be the first to know everything there is to know about Crestwood. And don't forget to watch these other videos.